On to our inflection point moment for today. We are thrilled because Beth Menduni from Video Story Studio has joined us today. She is our guest talking about one of the really hot topics out there, which is doing video and why it's important to do video. So we're going to kind of do things a little differently this morning. You notice I've not even let Jeff talk today. And just for the record, Jeff, I just used the word morning. Dang it. Today. We'll just use the word today. Yeah.
I always used to go on with good morning, and Brenda's like, it's afternoon.
But it's just barely afternoon. So anyway, we're going to start with asking Beth to give us the top 3 tips for video storytelling. So we're going to start right out of the chute with the top 3. Number 1.
Number 1, authentic stories always.
Okay.
Speak from the heart, authentic connection. Number 2, if you're going to do any video production and you're going to get in front of that camera, practice. Practice what you're going to say, how you're going to say it, understand your story forwards and backwards, because video is expensive and you don't want to have to redo this. Not at all. It's expensive with time and it's expensive with people. And then number 3, video is a top of the funnel lead marketing or lead generation tool. So we're talking about awareness. It's a marketing tool. When you do one video, it's not going to equate to one sale. And we need to think about this. And I think we're going to dive into those things in this conversation today.
I think you're right. And those are such critical pieces of information because, when you're thinking, obviously you have to be authentic. Anything that you're doing today, you better be authentic because fake, people can smell it a mile away.
It's not going to do any good. It's actually going to hurt your brand if you come off as inauthentic and scripted and uncomfortable. It hurts the brand, and we don't want to do that.
No, that defeats the purpose. Practicing, some of us do. We're doing a live stream, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. We did not send you an outline. We did not create an outline. Okay, we have some, we know some, we know some things we want to talk about, but trying to script this is like nailing Jello to a wall, just for the record.
Well, yes and no. And I think you and I had a conversation in email about that. My background is in live events as well. And you want to have moments for authenticity. You want to have moments for beautiful and conversation and things to connect. But you also have to put those guide rails on it so that you can actually have and target that conversation into what you need to communicate in the moment. So I think that's why I had so many questions when you said, will you do this? I said, of course. And then suddenly you got 16 emails from me like, what are we doing? And that just comes from my event planning background and doing video production. You got to plan for everything.
And there's nothing wrong with having a plan, especially because, and Jeff, when I say this, you're going to laugh at me, but we can go down a rabbit hole with the best of them. I am the queen of going down a rabbit hole. So practicing and knowing where the guardrails are and not veering off so far that you can't bring it back around. Yeah, that's really important, especially because if somebody's listening to this, they have a reason why they're coming on. They're not coming on to hear, hey, this is how our weekend went. And man, what about the game on Saturday? And
do not waste their time, even for a moment. Yes, you want to make that authentic connection, but don't waste the time. It really depends upon, this is a long format production that we're creating in this moment.
Right.
And I specialize in short format, but there are places for both. And you just want to get targeted and make sure that you've said everything and have room to be able to make that connection, whether it's short or long. You just always have to respect your audience's time.
Absolutely. And I find it humorous that a 30-minute live stream is considered long form. I understand that it is because, the opposite is 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes is long. It's just really interesting to think about that. And I'm going to stop for just a second and invite anybody who's on the live stream with us to just type in the chat and say hi so that we know you're here with us. And if there's any questions that you have for Beth, please type them in. We will incorporate them along the way so that we can make sure that we get your questions answered, because that's why we have experts on with us. So, yeah.
Beth, one
Nice.
question that I have that I hear oftentimes from people that are thinking about doing some sort of video message is always, and Rhonda and I've had this conversation even here, where do you look to come across authentic? I was raised that you always looked at people that you were talking to. So oftentimes on this, it's like I've got the weird serial killer eyes because I'm looking down and not into the camera. And then I look up, but I can't see who's talking. So, it's kind of bounce back and forth. And how do what would you say to someone that's hesitant to make the step? They've been on the fence. They really think and know that they should, but just, man, I'm scared. I'm worried about doing this for the first time and looking not put together.
Well, you know what? If you're going to do something for the first time, that's why I say practice. You can always throw out bad takes or bad practices. You just get yourself, if you're doing a live stream, those are a lot harder because you're in the moment. What if I make a mistake? Suddenly the script goes running through your head and you're just frozen. So that's why I say practice to understand what to say in the moment. And so, Jeff, to answer your question, when I've been listening to you, I've been looking at you. So you can see right now, I'm actually looking at you and look at my eye level. But when I've been speaking to you, I've been looking up into the camera. And on your side of things, it looks as though I'm actually speaking to you, which is good. I'm not really, but I want you to feel that connection. And that's really what you want to do. You always want to look into the eye of the camera, which can be very tough. Eye contact for a long extended amount of time is really tough. And now that I'm looking into a machine and I know you're down here in my eyesight, it is hard. And that's, again, comes back to practice, because hopefully I've come off as authentic and really talking to you, but I'm not even looking at your face right now. And so practice is always key.
I'm glad that you shared that, because just watching the screen with you talk, it does look like you're talking towards me versus my eyes bounce up and down and left and right all the time. Brenda's like, were you doing something else during that stream? I'm like, no, you happened to pop over here. I was looking here, but you were over here on my screen. So I kind of moved to look at you. And yeah, that's why I was kind of fidgeting.
I get it.
It is an interesting process, and especially when we're doing these live streams and the different people that are involved in the process, we don't know why they're looking over here, or did somebody walk into the room, or literally, especially if you have two screens that you work on, is somebody over on this screen over here and we don't know it. So it's pretty crazy from that standpoint. We've got a couple people who have jumped on with us. We have Gail Hurst and Phil Griffith. Hey, glad to have you here with us. And Gail asked a question that I don't know whether it's going to be right now that you want to answer this, Beth, or whether it's going to be something that makes more sense as we get further into the live stream. But she's asking the question, how long should the story be? So is that a question for now, or is that a question for later?
You brought it up, so let's dive right in.
Okay, then.
So Gail, how long should the story be? It really depends upon who your audience is and what your platform is, your format. Are you going long format, short format? Which story are you telling? So there's all these things. I'm not answering your question. I'm just telling you it's huge. It's a big thought. So if you think about video we were talking about this before we caught on there, weren't we, guys? If you're talking about video for advertising, short. If you've got a message, you want somebody to truly, most advertisement, buy now, go here, learn more. Those are your specific call to actions that you typically get. You'll want to keep it as short as possible. Most spots, if you're doing broadcast traditionally, if you're doing traditional broadcast, 30 seconds, 60 seconds is really long. We, on average, have, I think, a 7-second, it might be 3-second attention span to capture our attention if we actually want to go along with the message. Think about YouTube ads before they play for anything you watch and how short they are before the skip button goes. So if you're doing an advertisement, you got to pack that value in immediately from when you open your mouth. When you're talking to a longer format, say maybe you're doing an About Us video on your website, I like to keep those to 60 seconds, 90 seconds, and you jump in with value and you jump in with your story and explain who you are. That way they get the opportunity to learn what you're all about, who you serve, how you can help them. And really, when you tell that story, when you're telling your story, specifically if you're trying to get work with another business, you want to tell your story in a way that's empowering for them, that talks about the things they want to hear about. So later in this conversation, Rhonda has a question for me. She's like, what's your origin story? I think you said something else, but I'm thinking origin story. And that's when you can go deeper into your story. So you really, when you're in the frame of a conversation, you can typically go into your origin story and tell your story. But really, whenever anybody's talking to you, when they're getting to know you in the beginning, it's kind of like dating. You're doing your highlights. You're almost doing your pitch to who you are and what your business is about. And your about page is a perfect place for telling your personal story. And verbal conversations are the great place. But usually when you're just telling your story, not many people are asking for that when you're using video as an advertising or marketing endeavor.
That makes sense. In an advertising situation, what the message sounds like is very different than it's going to sound like when you're in an About Me video on your website.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two totally different.
Completely different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully if they're on your website, you've done some good marketing and advertisement to get them there. And now they're spending that minute, 60 seconds to see, is this a good fit? And that's where you really have to say, this is who I'm about. This is how I can help you. These are the results we've gotten. And hopefully the next step with your call to action, because you should always have a call to action in any video that you do, is to connect with you, is to start a conversation. Hey, got 15 minutes? Are you thinking about video marketing? Go here and let's have a conversation.
Exactly. So you have used the expression long format versus short format, and in my head I hear so many different things with that. Can you define that for us? Speaking of, we're going down a place we didn't anticipate going, or I didn't anticipate going, but nonetheless, I think that will help people, because this is like discussing the world, and so we got to start narrowing it down a little bit.
Short format, I would consider anything under 2 minutes.
That's short.
Short. That's short. Yeah.
Yes.
People don't have time to spend doing it. They already know within 7 seconds if they're going to watch the next 30 seconds. So, and then long format, I consider anything larger. Now, if you go and do some research, people have different opinions, but for me and where I specialize, that's what I say. I recently had a client come up to me and said, hey, we want to do a speaker reel. I said, great. In my mind, I'm thinking 2 minutes, good. They're like, we want to do 5 minutes. I'm like, who is going to watch that? And I will honestly say I was 100% wrong, because I started doing research. I was, and I'm glad that I was, because now I had more time to play with, to pack in their value of what they were presenting on. And the 5 minutes, we ended up a little bit under 5 minutes, and it's beautiful. And I'm so grateful that they challenged me on it, and because they knew what industry standard was. So a good thing learned from my mistake, not a mistake, or knowledge to be gained from here, is see if you're thinking about creating something, look at your peers in your network. You can look at your competitors. You can see how long of content they're creating and do a little bit of research, dig it up on Google, and figure out, what works for me and what I'm trying to create. Because when you define terms, for me as the video marketer, I think 2 minutes and less is short, but for someone else, it could be longer. And it also is industry dependent. I'm not helpful here. It just is got to be the right fit for you in the industry and the story you're telling and the platform you're presenting it on.
That's a really good point, because here we are doing a live stream that they tell you need to be 30 minutes and up. And when we're doing it together, we can get to 30 minutes. We have no problem getting to 30 minutes.
Oh, Rhonda, we could be on here for hours, and you know that, right?
This is very true.
I watch that, but we could be on here for hours.
And we would have fun, just for the record. And Jeff and I have fun with our 30-minute-ish videos. But when I have to get on by myself, if I get to 15 minutes, it is truly miraculous, because if there's not somebody to interact with, it's much more difficult for me to stay in the process on that. So when you tell me shorter is better, that makes sense. And I'm not somebody who's going to watch a long video. I'm sorry, I don't have time. I'll listen to a podcast, but I'm not going to sit in front of the screen to watch a video unless there's something really compelling that I'm listening to.
I think how-to videos, people watch longer how-to videos if they're learning a skill in the moment. But and hopefully this conversation, they'll watch it because they're like, ooh, what is she going to say next about video? So when you're learning a skill, I think you can go longer format, but the content's got to be good and it's got to be very targeted to what your audience wants to hear.
Absolutely. Why am I staying on this video? What is it? What's the value that I'm getting as the person engaging with the video? And that's why when people are, putting their questions in the chat or telling us what they want to know about it, it's so much more helpful because we know that we're telling them what they're looking for. And so that makes a big difference. Yeah.
I think to summarize what you're saying, Rhonda, is clarity and respect. And
Absolutely.
when you're working on any project, any marketing, advertising, anything you're doing to get the word out about your business, you want clarity and you want to have respect for the people that you're speaking to for their time.
Yeah. Yeah. So speaking of clarity, you do a process called message mapping, which, how is that for a transition? I mean,
I
really.
like that was very good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Nicely done.
Message mapping is a way of getting to clarity around what you do. So tell me about how you're doing your message mapping and how that relates to video storytelling. Excuse me.
So Rhonda has the wonderful experience that we've known each other for a while. And actually, I had a product years ago that was called the Message Map. And I helped her to figure out what to say to her audience, the messages they needed to hear in the moment to start a relationship with her. That's what our message map was. And over the years, things have changed. Now, the first thing that I do with clients, I know, well, you evolve, you learn,
That's
you
right.
answer to what the market is requesting. And what the market was requesting was help with storytelling and help with video. So we are first, like anytime anybody enters into a project with us, we do something that's called a story sketch. And the story sketch is really figuring out what the heck do you want to do? Are you creating video? Are you stuck on a message? With a lot of times with video, it's like, all right, how can I help you multiply that content? If we're going to come in here and you're going to spend this money, I told you video is expensive. If you're going to do it, how can I help you get the best ROI about what you want to create? So we start talking about, where is this going to go? Who is this for? Who's on camera? You go through all the different ideas that could be captured. And we figure out, well, what opportunities do we have for capturing content maybe outside of this project that you could use in your organization? So we actually put, it's almost like a visual map together on how they can create the content and multiply it and cut it up and use it in different places. That's when we're doing video. There's clients who come to me who are either know they're stuck in a message or want a video. And I'm like, you got to work on your message first, because we have to figure out what you have to say in a way that your audience needs to hear it. So we have to actually figure out what are the things that your people need to hear to convert into a conversation and relationship with you. Again, video is top of the lead funnel. So you have to have this clarity. You have to have this respect for your audience and be able to communicate those things clearly and quickly. So I took the message map. It's kind of got turned into the story sketch, but then it got broken apart and turned into the message manual. So that's when I know, right? It's like, you don't know these things, but I've been working my behind off back here.
I know you have been.
The message manual is really getting that clarity to figure out how to speak those things exactly to the different platforms, to the different people, depending upon where they are in their consideration phase for you as an audience, and then helping your sales and marketing people to be able to communicate this message as well. So there's some training involved with that. So wrapping that up, because it was very long-winded, and how does message map and what was it? How does message map relate to video storytelling? You got to have a plan. You have to have the clarity and the respect and know what your audience is really looking for. So you figure out your messages first before you ever turn on a camera, because video is expensive. It can waste a lot of time and a lot of resources. You got to work on your story first. You got to work on your messaging first. I use those two words interchangeably, story and messaging, but you got to figure it out before you go.
So you that's awesome. And I love the fact that story and messaging are basically synonyms for you. I'm going to use that expression because I don't have a better way to explain it. But because messaging and story really are the same thing. And when you're talking about your brand as a business, your story and your messaging, that's all interrelated in that whole thing. So, yeah.
It's your tone of voice. It's the words you use. It's the attitude you portray. Our personal brand is very sassy because that is very me. And you got to figure out how much sass to put in there and how much sass is not okay. We like to push that boundary and we try, but it's interesting figuring out how to speak in your brand. Your brand's tone of voice is another beautiful thing to learn and to figure out along the way.
And to own your brand's tone of voice, because your sassy brand is so perfect for you. I mean, if somebody can't deal with a sassy video storytelling person, they should not work with Beth Menduni. But if you want to have ever so slightly, at least a little bit of fun in doing your video storytelling, Beth Menduni is your woman.
It's kind of like the annoying younger sister kind of sass because I have 3 older siblings, and I think that's where it comes from.
And I am the oldest sibling, so that's probably why we get along like we do. That's funny.
Beth, one thing I'm curious about, because you talked a lot about making sure messaging is clear and things before you invest in video. Is there, and this is probably a big, it depends, but how long should people think about kind of getting their messaging right and trying to fine tune things before making an investment in video?
Great question.
Wow. That is a great question. I keep coming back to video is expensive. Even if you're DIYing it on your own, again, it's the time investment and it's getting some gear and getting good at using that stuff. You got to train yourself. So how long do you need to think about your story? You got to be able to, if you can meet somebody at a meeting in an elevator and you can do your pitch and communicate your value story, you're ready for video. You are so ready for video. It's just, video is just another sales tool or salesperson, if you will, telling your story. And that's the goal for it. It's another way of getting people to start a relationship with you and to communicate to one another. So I didn't take as long as I needed to answer that for you, did I, Jeff? So as long as you can like communicate your value, you're good. You're ready for you're ready for video. You have to think about it as an investment too, because you got to figure out video is expensive. If you're going to invest in video, what are you not going to invest in? Is this the right time? How does my accountant or looking at your books, does it make sense for you in growth? Are you a service-based business? Are you a product-based business? Those are all the things that you need to think about when you're thinking about doing a video strategy and seeing if it's the perfect place for you to go into. Also, where are your people hanging out? Where do they want to consume your information? Sorry, I go off on tangents because there's a lot of things, there's so many nuances that go into producing a video. It's not just, I want to make a video. You really got to make sure that you're ready to make a video.
Well, and you got to make the right video, or maybe I should say you have to make the right video for the stage of business that you're in right now. As a startup, your video as a startup, your video is going to look very different than your video looks after you've been in business for 3 to 5 years. Yeah. Because as a startup, there's so many things that are nebulous versus 3 to 5 years in. Hopefully you've got your feet under you in several different areas and you're much more clear because, as you said earlier, Beth, when we were talking about the message mapping and now you've got the message manual, you get more clear on how you can, well, I'm just using you as the example. I mean, I of course, have not evolved in my business at all, she said sarcastically. But yeah, I've evolved a lot in my business. I know, I was being very silly.
But it just, you evolve and you answer to the market. You truly do. There are some videos that I've taken down because I'm like, this isn't really the case. I wanted to point something out when you said about startups. I wanted to give a tip for startups, specifically like, okay, I want to go out there. I don't have a budget, but it is imperative that you tell your story. You could use your web camera and tell your story and record it. And just make sure your lighting's good and you're in a quiet place. That's like how you get started with doing your first video for your company. And you make 2 videos. One is your service video, how you help others, what you can do for them, the results that you see. Answer those 3 things and get out. Make it under 2 minutes. All right. And then for your about page, tell people who you are, why you do what you do. Well, let me think about this. What was the question you would ask yourself? This is your time to tell your story. It's your value statement, but it's why you're doing the things that you're doing and why you want to help. It's almost like a place where you put your mission statement so people get to know who you are.
Do you do your mission statement saying, I am blah, 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 or do you say, I serve? Meaning, are you focused on you or are you focused on your customer when you do your mission statement?
I still think that it's always outward facing to the message your customer needs to hear. Again, when you're asking me, you don't really tell your story unless it's like written up on your website and people actually want to go and spend the time and read it. Or if somebody asks you in a conversation. I mean, there are places to put it in different ways, but video is an expensive thing to invest in. Let's make sure the conversations are always focused to what your audience needs to hear.
Yes. Okay. So basically, your audience is the hero. You're not the hero.
Correct. You're the person that's there to help them get to the next step or to fix their problem, to help them to move past their fears, frustrations, and into their wants and aspirations.
Yeah. I want you to be able to get to where you want to go, and here's how I can help you do that, as opposed to, I'm very special and you need to hire me.
Correct. I think a lot of people get it wrong, where it's all about me. Your marketing is not about you. It's about your people, what they need to hear, and you're here to help them if they're the perfect fit. This is how we do it. If you're a perfect fit, let's have a conversation.
That is a perspective that you have to have some confidence to be able to stand in that place. Mm-hmm. But the only way to get that confidence is to start doing the work.
It's to start doing the work or get a confidence surrogate.
Oh, I like that expression.
Yeah.
Well, I gave myself that title because when you're doing a video project, it's very uncomfortable. And if you're not used to being in front of camera, it can steal away your confidence and steal away your power. And so my job as your video producer is to help you, to pump you up, to help you feel comfortable, to feel accepted, to take care of the hair, makeup, lighting, all that stuff, and to make sure that you feel good about being in front of camera. And we have a lot of fun. We really do. So know that the process is hard, but you can always get someone to assist you, to help you.
That's true. That's a really good point. And to have I love it, confidence surrogate. Lisa Stroth loves that too. Yes, Lisa, that is a word that we gotta remember that one. So tell us how you've gotten to this place, because I mean, I know enough of your story, but I think other people need to understand, because your story helps other people become more confident that they too can grow their business. So tell us how you got here. Tell us your origin story using your terminology.
I love when we talk origin stories. It makes me feel like a powerful superhero, which we all are. We're all business owners. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all deciding to do something differently. So 2016, I started my company because I was laid off. I was kicked out. I didn't fit in. And that was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. And I didn't realize it at the moment because, of course, I felt like, ooh, you don't want me. And it hurt. And it just negative things. And it was a negative story in my head. But 5 years later, I've been able to build and create something that is different from what's offered in the marketplace. And I've done it differently from the people who came before me. And I like that. I like being able to have employees, to be able to help them to, have a job and support the community. So my origin story started out of spite almost, but it continued because I'm good at it.
Very.
Something in the market that wasn't there before. And I've been having so much fun. And my clients are the most amazing people. And the people I get to meet and honor and tell their stories, it's addicting. And I call myself a story addict as well, because it's just so much fun to be able to make these connections with people with stories and being able to share messages. So at first I felt so much shame by being laid off because there's a stigma. Luckily now it's not such a bad thing, but in 2016 it was.
Yeah.
I also had an infant. He was under a year old. So that was like, I was robbed of my confidence by being in a very toxic work environment. That's why it was wonderful that I was kicked out. And I also was a new mom, and my son was still in diapers, under 1 year old. And this origin story is very empowering for me because I said, I can do this better. And I did. And it has been hard work and so many lessons learned, so many mistakes learned, but I think it only made it better. And now I can offer a better product for my clients.
That's awesome, Beth. And I'm so thrilled with how you have changed and grown and evolved over these 5 years, because it's so true that you being let go was the best thing that could have possibly happened for you, because you would have been kept in a box where you were. But I love it.
I don't know if I would have left. Here's the thing.
No.
I loved what I was doing. I didn't know that entrepreneurship was something that I could actually step into. And honestly, because it was a very toxic work environment, they were stealing my confidence. They were taking it away. And I was so scared. And being laid off was the answer the universe needed to give me in that moment. It was honestly a blessing, because I was not strong enough to do it for myself. I had a toddler, infant. I don't know, when they're not yet one, but they're almost one. What do you call them? I don't know. Babies, diapers, kids in
Less
diapers.
than 1 year old.
Okay, less than 1 year old. He's almost one. I mean, I didn't know what to do. I felt stuck, and that's the worst feeling to feel. And I think because I've experienced that, I know a lot of my clients just feel stuck because they don't know how to communicate their value, or they don't know how to use the technology, or they have had bad experiences in front of the camera before, or maybe they've done video and their producer just sucked and and their team just wasn't good. Well, I get to offer something different, and I get to be that confidence surrogate to help uplift their voice. And I'm taking it very seriously. Like, this is what I was called to do. And it's amazing when you get to find that. Terrible origin story, but it was actually born out of beauty. It was wonderful. Stunk to go through, but I'm still here.
Not only are you still here, but you are blooming and shining in an amazing way. And there you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There are so many people who have similar stories of whether they were laid off or whether they finally just got fed up enough. I don't know anybody else who's on this live stream who's had an experience like that. Namely, I mean, I'll speak for it myself. There have been times when I've been in that space and it was time to just get out. But it was really hard to do that because it takes, that's a barrier to get over. That's a really high one. And I don't want to go down that road because we don't have that much time. But really, when you can do that and step out and then have the courage to keep going and moving forward from that place, it is so powerful. And your ability to tell that story gives others the confidence to take that step too. So that's really important, Beth. And that's why I wanted you to share your origin story with people.
Well, thank you for letting me share that story. I don't get to share it often, but it brings me such joy to share it, because it is a good story.
It's a very good story. So, we've been talking about message manual and video storytelling. I want to just really go back to the beginning and ask the question, so why should people use video? There's so many options out there. You can write a blog, you can do a podcast, but why video?
Video is great because when you're doing research and you come up with a Google search or whatever search engine you use, people go and click on video. They want the easy answer. They want an expert to tell them what's going on. It's a connection tool because you can, if you're looking into the eye of the camera, you can actually feel that connection with someone else who's going through it. It's great for SEO and search engine, or being able to use key search terms and what you're speaking about and how you title your descriptions, or how you do your title, how you do your descriptions. I mean, if you post it up on YouTube, I mean, it's going to help when somebody starts Googling for an answer. So video one is great because you get to control the narrative and tell the story of your brand. You get to offer solutions, or I'm very big on with the brands that I use, and giving people information. So it's almost like it's content marketing. And you get to, it's just so much fun. But it's expensive. How many times have I said that? You have to go in with a plan. Yeah. Well, it's true. I don't want anybody to get hurt financially because they spent their funds in video. You really have to make sure this is the growth move and marketing move you want to make.
That's a really good point. And video has so many different definitions, because what we're doing right now in this live stream is a video.
It's video. Yeah.
But it's not the tightly scripted, and I'm not saying everything that you do with your clients is tightly scripted, but the way you can edit a video in an about or in an advertising message, and potentially you could even take a group of these. I don't know that you want to do this, but you could take several live streams and edit them together to make almost a speaker reel or a highlight reel to share your message with someone.
Yeah.
So video takes so many forms.
It really does. I mean, being online and doing Zoom and doing this live stream, because of the global pandemic, we've been able to jump into that technology, and people are used to it. It's much more accessible. And you can meet people where you are. Actually, during the pandemic, because of safety protocols, we captured footage online through using Zoom, through using other platforms to capture their stories, because they were super important to tell. But because of different constraints, we couldn't be there on site with people. So you can still make amazing content. And that's another thing I need to point out. I'll get back to the whole videos everywhere thing. But video, have good lighting. Okay, it all starts with content. The best content you can put in there. You add in good lighting and good audio source, you have a great video. There's other things you can do to make it look good, but you can use your camera. You can start with your web camera. You can start with your cell phone. I tell brands, anytime they're doing honestly anything and it looks interesting and it looks like a picture that you could take and post on Pinterest or Instagram, any of the social media, what am I talking about? Record 10 seconds of video. And if you keep doing that, you can start creating a video archive. And whenever it's time to make your first video, or maybe you land an amazing gig with a local TV station and they're like, hey, send us your B-roll archive. You can be like, yes, I have that. And it just helps to tell your story. So video, getting started isn't that hard. You just got to know what the goal is and what you want to create. But rewinding it back to videos everywhere. I mean, yeah, video is everywhere. And you know what? I don't have a point there. I'm going to let you talk. I was trying to connect it. I didn't get there. If this was me shooting a video for myself, I'd be like, oh, that's a blooper. Cut it out. There you go.
But bloopers are the most fun part. Let's just tell the truth.
That's true. It's true. I think
Jeff and I have no bloopers, right? Right, Jeff? We got no bloopers.
I just put out a post. We made a post and we put it in our scheduler, and it's like, editors know where all the bloopers are buried. Maybe I'll put that out for Halloween.
Oh, that's a good one. I like it. That
would be a really good one, because I know anytime I've been on video, the blooper reels with me are usually hysterical, because Rhonda knows you don't always know what comes out of my mouth, and then I just laugh and I'm like, I can't believe I just said that on camera.
That happens way more often than you'd think. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. So Beth, we have been talking a good long while here, which doesn't surprise me because
Right.
as you said early in the live stream, we could talk for hours. And Jeff would, he could chime in with us. He can hold his own. Trust me. Jeff can hold his own with me. That's very true. How can people reach you?
Hit us up at our Instagram, video.story.studio. See what we're up to. We finally just turned it back on to have conversations. We hadn't posted anything since April. We've been doing a lot of internal things. Anyway, besides the point. So go there if you just want to like casually stalk us and see what we're all about. That's a great place to start. But if you really are like, what is this lady about? You can go to our website, videostorystudio.com. And if we impress you enough, there's all the click here buttons to schedule a call with me, which would be fun. It's always going to be fun. And honestly, there's a lot of great content. We really do a lot of good work on making blogs. We call it our video blog, but we don't do video. We just call it, it's a blog about video. And it's talking about messaging. It's talking about creation of assets. It's talking about all the things. And it's fun.
And we know how we create those videos because just for the record, the reason why I can do the amount of content I do is because Beth taught me the process to be able to do content, because if I had to write it myself, well, I was just like killing myself doing that. But because Beth gave me a system to be able to do it, yay, thank you, Beth. I now can
and it's tweaked so much, Rhonda. I can't wait, because I told Rhonda I wanted to update our message map and turn it into a manual, because I want to. And our systems have changed and upgraded. We've learned so much. I think we did yours 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Oh, at least.
Yeah. So things have progressed since then. And I can share even
I hope
some more
so.
tools. Yeah.
Because my stuff's progressed since then. So I hope yours has too. So there you go. Absolutely.
It's awesome to see businesses advance like that over the years, and the things that you learn, that you never would have thought of 5 years ago. And now it's like, oh, I'm here. And what's the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years going to look like? Because I never thought that I would be at this point. I love hearing people's stories like that.
Yeah, because if you're not evolving like that, then clearly you're not able to serve your customer as well as you could be.
Well, you might have a job. It might be a job, not a business.
Oh, yeah.
Well said. How can you say that at the 42:30 mark in this conversation?
You just chop that and, make it commercial for.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. But that is a really good point, which leads us into the next step for the Inflection Point Hub, because we've been doing some guest series over the last 3 weeks. Beth wrapping it up with an amazing conversation. And next week, we start a series planning for 2023. I can't believe, how can I even say the words 2023? That's just like, oh my God, here we are. But Jeff being the processes and systems guy, has started putting together some planning process for us. And so starting next week, we are going to be talking about planning for 2023. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm sure others will be also. Yeah. Any words of wisdom you got for us, Jeff, as we start that?
No, I'm looking forward to it. It's always this is kind of what I consider heavy planning season for next year, where you really start to lay out kind of plans and look at what went well, what didn't go so well this year. You should be doing that throughout the year, not just waiting until Q4 to do it, but we'll be kind of wrapping up the year and over the next several weeks talking about what that looks like and how to do it. If you want to run a process like this yourself or enhance a process that you've been doing, or maybe you haven't done one before, and we'll have some tools and good discussion on, how to kick that off here this month.
So here we go. Beth, thank you so much for being with us. It's been absolutely fabulous. We've learned a lot about video, short, long, all those good fun things. And we look forward to connecting with you again and learning more about video. Have a great day.
Yes, thanks, Beth.